For 3 years, my daughter told everyone she was taking care of me. The whole church thought she was a saint. But saints don't let their mothers choose between medicine and groceries. And they sure don't lie about it. Sometimes the only way to stop a lie is to make the truth impossible to ignore. My name is Bridget Coleman. I'm 79 years old. And this is the story of how my own daughter turned my struggle into her glory. Until I decided enough was enough. It started innocently enough. After my husband Robert died 5 years ago, I thought I could manage on my own. We'd been married 53 years, and he always handled the finances, the repairs, the heavy lifting. But I was determined to stay independent. Bridget sits at a small table in her modest kitchen, carefully counting pills into a weekly dispenser. The kitchen is clean but sparse. Generic brand items, coupons clipped and organized, an empty fruit bowl. The first year wasn't too bad. I had Robert's life insurance to help with the big expenses. But by year 2, things started getting tight. Social Security doesn't stretch like it used to, and everything seemed to cost more every month. Bridget opens her laptop, an old Dell that takes forever to boot up, and checks her bank balance. $47.83, the heating bill in winter, the cooling bill in summer, prescription costs that seemed to double overnight. I started making choices I never thought I'd have to make. Heat or medicine, groceries or the electric bill. She pulls out a notebook, where she's carefully tracked every expense in her neat handwriting. That's when I swallowed my pride and reached out to Susan, my only child, the daughter I raised to believe family takes care of family, the way Robert and I took care of his mother for 12 years. Bridget's phone shows a long chain of unanswered text messages to Susan, dating back months. At first, I thought maybe she didn't understand how bad things had gotten. Susan's always been busy with her career, her family. She's a real estate agent, does very well for herself. Lives in one of those new subdivisions with the perfect lawns and 3-car garages. Meanwhile, in Susan's suburban home, Susan, 45, impeccably dressed in designer clothes, poses with a fresh bouquet of flowers, taking multiple selfies for social media. Her kitchen gleams with granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. Susan types on her phone. Blessed to have such an amazing mom who taught me the value of independence. She's the strongest woman I know, and my biggest inspiration. Love you, Mom. Blessed daughter. Strong women family first. She hits post and immediately gets likes and heart reactions but never picks up the phone to actually call her mother. I didn't know about the social media posts at first. I barely understood Facebook back then. But Susan was building quite a reputation in our community as the devoted daughter. Bridget sits alone in a pew at St. Mary's Church, the same church where she and Robert were married, where Susan was baptized. After service, Helen, 72, a fellow parishioner and longtime family friend, approaches warmly. Bridget, you're looking well. Susan was just telling Our Lady's Auxiliary last week how she makes sure you never want for anything. She said you're so well taken care of. You're practically spoiled. Bridget forces a smile, but her eyes show the pain. She's very thoughtful. Oh, we know. She told us about the new refrigerator she bought you, and how she has groceries delivered every week. You raised such a generous girl. Bridget's confusion is evident. She still has the same refrigerator from 1987, and she hasn't had groceries delivered ever. She also mentioned you won't let her pay your bills directly because you're too independent. Such a stubborn streak. But she said she found ways to help anyway. After Helen walks away, Bridget sits back down in the pew, staring at the stained glass windows she's looked at for decades. That's when I realized something was very wrong. Susan wasn't just not helping me. She was telling people she was helping me. Elaborate stories about things that never happened. Bridget remembers Susan at a church potluck the previous month, surrounded by admiring women. Susan speaks animatedly. Oh, I could never let Mom struggle. I check on her 3 times a week, make sure all her bills are covered. I even hired a cleaning lady to come twice a month because she's too proud to ask for that kind of help. She's the most important thing in my life, besides Jake, of course. The women nod approvingly, some mentioning their own elderly parents, and how hard it is to help stubborn seniors. I remember standing across that fellowship hall, hearing my daughter describe a life I wasn't living, care I wasn't receiving. It was like hearing about a different person altogether. That evening, Bridget sits on her bed, phone in hand, carefully composing a text to Susan. She starts and deletes several drafts. First draft: Susan, I'm having trouble with the heating bill this month. It's $340, and I only have $200 left after my medications. Could you help me with the rest? I've been wearing 2 sweaters inside, but it's getting really cold. She deletes it, tries again. Hi, honey. Hope you're doing well. I hate to bother you, but I'm having some financial difficulties and... Deletes again. Finally settles on. Hi, Susan. Could we talk when you have time? It's important. She sends it and waits. Hours pass, then a day, then 3 days. No response. Bruh, silence was worse than a no would have been. At least a no would have been honest. A week later, Bridget tries calling. It goes straight to voicemail. Hi, you've reached Susan. I'm probably showing a fabulous home to wonderful clients. Leave a message and I'll get back to you soon. Bridget hangs up without leaving a message. She tries again the next day. Same. Result. Finally, Susan calls back, but not with good news. Mom? Sorry I missed your calls. Things have been absolutely crazy at work. The market is booming and I've got 3 closings this week. What did you need? Susan. I've been trying to reach you for days. I'm having trouble with some bills and... Oh, Mom. You know how I worry about you managing money. Remember what happened with Dad's cousin Betty? She got taken advantage of by those scam artists. Maybe you should look into some senior financial planning services. Susan, I'm not being scammed. I just need help with my heating bill. Mom, I really can't get into this right now. I'm literally walking into a showing. Can we talk about this later? The line goes dead. Later never comes. What hurt most was discovering from my neighbor Carol that Susan had been telling people around town a very different story. Bridget's neighbor Carol, 60, stops by with a casserole and some gossip. I saw Susan at the grocery store yesterday. She was telling the cashier about how worried she is because you won't accept help anymore. She said you've become so fiercely independent since Robert passed that you refuse to let her pay for anything. Bridget sets down her teacup with shaking hands. Is that what she said? She seemed so frustrated, poor thing. Said she keeps trying to give you money, and you keep sending it back. She was asking the cashier if she had elderly parents, and how she handled their stubborn pride. Carol continues, not noticing Bridget's distress. She also mentioned she hired someone to do your yard work, but you fired them because you wanted to do it yourself. What a handful you must be. Bridget looks out her window at her overgrown lawn that she can barely manage with her old push mower. She even said she got you signed up for Meals on Wheels, but you cancelled it because you didn't want charity. Such independence. Robert would be so proud. After Carol leaves, Bridget sits in her chair, hands shaking with a mixture of anger and hurt she's never felt before. My own daughter wasn't just neglecting me. She was using my neglect as a story of her own virtue. Every lie she told made her look more caring and made me look more difficult. That evening, Bridget does something she's never done before. She creates a Facebook account. With Carol's teenage grandson's help over the phone, she learns to navigate social media. I had to see for myself what Susan was telling the world. What she finds breaks her heart, post after post about her wonderful, caring daughter. Some people think being a good daughter is hard, but loving my mom comes naturally. She taught me that family means everything. Even when she's stubborn about accepting help, I find ways to make sure she's taken care of. Blessed daughter. Family first. Mom is my hero. Posted the same day Bridget ate crackers and peanut butter for dinner because she'd spent her last $20 on Susan's birthday gift. Another post. Took Mom grocery shopping today and her face just lit up. She tries to spoil me, but I spoil her right back. Nothing makes me happier than making sure my amazing mother has everything she needs. Grateful. Daughter. Drax. Moments like these. Posted. On a day when Bridget was home alone, eating a can of soup she'd been saving. Mom's teaching me so much about aging gracefully. She insists on staying independent, but I make sure someone's always looking out for her. Family takes care of family. Lessons from Mom. Family love. Posted during the week when Bridget was debating whether to fill her prescription or pay the water bill. The posts had dozens of likes, comments about what a wonderful daughter Susan was, how lucky Bridget was to have such devoted care. I sat there reading lie after lie, watching my daughter build a reputation on my suffering. Every comment praising her was like a knife in my heart. Bridget opens her laptop and creates a new folder on her desktop. Evidence. She begins methodically screenshotting Susan's Facebook posts, saving her unanswered text messages, organizing her bills and bank statements. I realized then that my silence had become Susan's weapon. Every time I protected her reputation by not telling people the truth, I gave her more material for her lies. She creates a simple document, dating each piece of evidence. November 3rd. Text to Susan about furnace repair. $280 needed. No response. November 3rd. Susan's Facebook post about making sure Mom has everything she needs. November 8th. Follow-up text to Susan. Haven't heard back. Everything okay? No response. November 9th. Susan's post about taking me grocery shopping and filling my pantry. November 9th. My actual meals. Peanut butter sandwich for lunch and dinner. The list goes on for pages. I also decided to start recording our phone conversations. In my state, it's legal as long as one party consents, and I was consenting to record my own conversations. In her spare room, Bridget sets up a simple recording system using her phone and laptop. She practices a few times to make sure she understands the technology. This is Bridget Coleman, recording on November 15th at 8:47 p.m. I'm about to call my daughter Susan to ask for help with my prescription costs. This will be my 4th attempt to reach her this month regarding financial assistance. My blood pressure. Medication has increased to $180 per month, and I currently have $43 in my checking account. She dials Susan's number. It rings several times. Mom, this isn't really a good time. Jake has soccer practice, and I'm running behind schedule. Can this wait? Susan, I just need 5 minutes. My blood pressure medication has gone up in price, and I'm having trouble. Mom, you know I worry about you managing these things on your own. Maybe you should call the pharmacy and ask about generic versions. Or see if there are any senior discount programs. I already did that. This is the generic. Susan, I really need help with. Mom. I really have to run. Jake's coach gets upset when parents are late. Can we talk about this later? Maybe this weekend? The line goes dead. Bridget stops the recording and makes a note. November 15th. Susan too busy to talk about medication costs. Promised to call back this weekend. Never called. Later never came. It never does. But I kept recording, kept documenting, because I was starting to realize that the truth needed witnesses. Over the next few weeks, Bridget builds her case methodically. She screenshots every Facebook post, saves every unanswered message, documents every phone call. She also starts reaching out to other people in ways she never had before. When Helen mentions at church that she's making extra soup and asks if Bridget would like some instead of politely declining, Bridget says yes. I started accepting help from people who were actually offering it. Real help, not imaginary help that existed only on Facebook. She joins the church's senior fellowship group, something she'd avoided since Robert's death because she felt like it was admitting defeat. Instead, she finds a community of people dealing with similar challenges. At our weekly meetings, I listened to other people's stories. Mary's son who promises to visit but never shows up. Frank's daughter who calls every few months to ask for money but never offers any help in return. I wasn't alone in this, but she also hears different stories. Helen's daughter who comes every Sunday for dinner and brings groceries. Frank's son who installed grab bars in his bathroom and checks on him daily. Real care, not performed care. The contrast was striking. These people could tell specific stories about specific help. They had details, not just vague platitudes about how blessed they were. During one of these meetings, Pastor Williams pulls Bridget aside. "Bridget, I hope you don't mind me asking, but some of us have been wondering if you could use some assistance. I know Susan talks about how well she takes care of you, but we haven't actually seen her around much lately." Bridget considers her. Options. She could continue protecting Susan's reputation or she could tell the truth. "Pastor, I appreciate the concern. Things have been challenging since Robert passed. Would you like to talk about it? Sometimes it helps to share these burdens." Maybe it's time I did. After her conversation with Pastor Williams, Bridget makes a decision. She's going to tell the truth, but she's going to do it in a way that can't be dismissed or explained away. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for honesty. But I knew that if I just told people Susan wasn't helping me, it would be my word against hers. And she'd already established herself as the devoted daughter. Bridget decides to wait for the right moment. A public moment where Susan would be performing her caring daughter routine in front of witnesses. That moment comes with the announcement of the annual Thanksgiving potluck at church. Every year, Susan makes a point of attending, usually arriving late and leaving early, but always making sure people see her there with her mother. I spent the week before Thanksgiving preparing, not cooking. I was making copies of everything. Every screenshot, every text message, every bank statement. I organized it all in a manila folder, chronologically, with dates and explanations. She practices what she's going to say, looking at herself in the bathroom mirror. I'm not doing this to hurt Susan. I'm doing this because the truth matters, and because people have offered to help me based on false information about my situation. She also prepares herself emotionally for what's to come. I knew this would probably end my relationship with Susan permanently, but I had to ask myself, what relationship? She wasn't returning my calls, wasn't helping with my needs, and was actively lying about our situation. What exactly was I protecting? The church fellowship hall is decorated in autumn colors. orange and brown streamers, paper turkeys, cornucopias filled with artificial fruit. The long tables are covered with potluck dishes, and the room buzzes with conversation and laughter. Bridget arrives early carrying her contribution, a simple green bean casserole made with ingredients she bought with her grocery budget. She wears her best dress, a navy blue outfit she's had for years but still looks dignified in. Susan arrives fashionably late, making an entrance in an expensive outfit that probably cost more than Bridget's monthly grocery budget. She carries a store-bought pie still in its plastic container, clearly picked up on the way. "Mom!" Susan calls out loudly, making sure everyone can hear. "There's my beautiful mother! How are you feeling today?" She gives Bridget a performative hug and immediately starts working the room, making sure everyone sees her doting on her elderly mother. Susan gravitates toward the dessert table where a group of church ladies are gathered, including Helen, Carol, and several others who know both women well. "You know," Susan says, raising her voice slightly, "I was just telling Jake this morning how grateful I am to have such an amazing mom. She's taught me so much about resilience and independence." The women nod appreciatively. Susan continues, "It's been such a blessing to be able to take care of her the way she took care of me. I mean, she raised me to believe that family comes first, and I try to live that every day." Helen chimes in. "Susan, you're such a good daughter. Bridget is so lucky to have you looking out for her. Well, you know, sometimes she's almost too independent." Susan laughs. "I have to practically force her to let me help. Just last week, I tried to have groceries delivered and she sent them back. Can you imagine?" The women laugh knowingly about stubborn elderly parents. Susan's voice gets even more animated. "And don't get me started on trying to help with bills. She insists on managing everything herself, even when I offer to take care of things. I keep telling her, 'Mom, let me make your life easier.' But she's so proud." This is when Bridget stands up from her seat at a nearby table, manila folder in her hands. "Susan, honey, could I borrow you for just a moment?" The conversation quiets slightly, sensing something in Bridget's tone. Susan looks slightly annoyed at being interrupted during her performance. "Mom, I'm in the middle of catching up with everyone!" Bridget speaks louder, but still calm and measured. "This will just take a minute. I wanted to thank you publicly for all your support this year, since you've been telling everyone about it." Now the entire area around the dessert table falls silent. Other conversations continue elsewhere in the room, but this corner has everyone's attention. Bridget opens her folder with steady hands. "Ladies, I hope you don't mind if I share something with you. Susan's been telling everyone how much she helps me, and I thought you should see exactly what that looks like." She pulls out her phone, which she's loaded with screenshots, and a stack of printed documents. "Here are the text messages I've sent to Susan since November 1st. That's 3 weeks ago. November the 1st. Susan, the furnace repair estimate came in at $280. Could you help with part of it? November 3rd. Haven't heard back. Hope everything's okay. November 8th. Really need to get the furnace fixed before it gets too cold. November 14th. Susan, please call when you can. It's about the furnace and some other bills." The room grows uncomfortably quiet as nearby conversations stop. November 20th. That's 5 days ago. "The electric company is threatening to shut off power on Monday. Could you call me?" She looks up at the group of women who are staring in confused silence. And here are Susan's responses to all of those messages. She shows her phone screen. Empty. No response thread. Nothing. Not one reply. Susan's face is turning red. "Mom, What are you doing? This is completely inappropriate. Bridget continues calmly. But that's not the interesting part. Here's Susan's Facebook post from November 9th. She reads from a printed screenshot. Had the most wonderful afternoon making sure Mom's house is comfortable for winter. She tries to act all independent, but I make sure she has everything she needs. Heating bills are so expensive for seniors, but family takes care of family. Blessed daughter. Family first. She looks directly at Helen and the other women. Helen! That was posted on the day I wore 3 sweaters inside, because I couldn't afford to run the heat. The silence is now uncomfortable and heavy. Carol speaks. Up? Confused? Bridget, I don't understand. Susan told me you refused to let her help with heating costs. And here's another post. Bridget continues, pulling out another screenshot. November 15th. Took Mom grocery shopping today and her face just lit up when I told her to get whatever she wanted. Nothing makes me happier than spoiling my amazing mother. She's raised me to understand that love means taking action, not just words. Bridget's voice remains steady but gains strength. On November 15th, I ate a peanut butter sandwich for lunch and a can of soup for dinner. That can of soup was the last food I had in the house until I could get to the food bank the next morning. The shocked silence spreads as more people tune in to what's happening. Pastor Williams approaches the group, sensing the tension. Susan tries to interrupt. Mom, you're embarrassing both of us. People don't need to hear about your personal... My personal what, Susan? My personal poverty. The poverty you've been using as material for your social media posts about what a devoted daughter you are. Bridget turns to address the larger group that's now listening. I want to be very clear about something. I'm not sharing this to embarrass Susan or to make anyone feel sorry for me. I'm sharing this because truth matters. She holds up her folder. For 3 years, I've protected my daughter's reputation while choosing between my heart medication and my heating bill. I've let people think I'm too proud to accept help while I've been counting pennies for groceries. I've stayed quiet while Susan built a public image as the caring daughter, using my struggles as proof of her virtue. Pastor Williams gently asks, Bridget, are you saying you haven't been receiving the help Susan described? Pastor, I'm saying the only help I've received is from the people in this room who actually offered it. Helen's soup last month, Carol's rides to medical appointments, the senior fellowship group's assistance with yard work. She looks directly at Susan, who stands frozen, unable to defend the indefensible. I'm saying that my daughter has been taking credit for care she hasn't, provided while actively ignoring my actual needs. Helen looks at Susan with disappointment. Susan, is this true? Susan tries to stammer a defense. You don't understand how complicated this is. Mom can be very difficult to help. She doesn't always communicate clearly about what she needs. Bridget pulls out her phone again. Here's the recording of our last conversation from November 15th, when I called about my medication costs. The room falls completely silent as Bridget plays the brief recording of Susan brushing her off, too busy with Jake's soccer practice to talk about her mother's prescription needs. This recording is from the same day as that Facebook post about taking me grocery shopping. The weight of the deception settles over the room like a heavy blanket. Susan, faced with undeniable evidence and no way to explain away the contradictions, quietly gathers her purse and coat. I don't have to listen to this, she mutters, but her voice lacks conviction. As she heads toward the door, Helen calls after her. Susan, wait! Surely there's some explanation. Susan stops and turns back, and for a moment, Bridget hopes her daughter might finally tell the truth, might finally acknowledge what's been happening. Instead, Susan's face hardens. My mother has always been dramatic. I've tried to help her, but she makes it impossible. This is exactly why I stopped trying. The words hang in the air like a slap. Even now, confronted with evidence, Susan is choosing to blame her mother rather than take responsibility. She's been calling and texting constantly, demanding money. For every little thing, I have my own family to take care of. I can't be expected to solve every one of her problems. The room watches in uncomfortable silence as Susan reveals her true feelings. Feelings that directly contradict 3 years of social media posts about devotion and love. Pastor Williams tries to mediate. Susan, perhaps we could all sit down and work through... No. Susan's voice is sharp. I'm done. I'm done with the guilt trips, the constant demands, the manipulation. Everyone thinks I'm such a terrible daughter. Fine. Now you don't have to pretend I'm a good one. She leaves, the door closing behind her with finality. The room remains quiet for a long moment. Then Helen approaches Bridget, putting a gentle hand on her shoulder. Bridget, why didn't you tell us sooner? Bridget looks at this woman who's been her friend for 20 years. Because she's my daughter. Because I kept hoping she'd remember that family means helping each other. Not just talking about helping each other. Pastor Williams addresses the room. I think we all need to reflect on what we've heard today. But right now, Bridget, what do you need? How can we actually help? I need my heating bill paid so my power doesn't get shut off on Monday. I need help understanding which of my medications I can safely skip when I can't afford all of them. I need a ride to the food bank because my car is making a noise I can't afford to have diagnosed. The specificity of her needs compared to Susan's vague promises of care drives home the reality of her situation. Helen immediately responds, I can help with the heating bill, and my son-in-law is a mechanic. He'll look at your car for free, Carol adds. I can drive you anywhere you need to go. I should have offered sooner. Other voices join in with concrete offers of real help. This is what I learned that day, Bridget says. The difference between performed caring and actual caring is specificity. Real help addresses real needs. Fake help is all about the person giving it, not the person receiving it. That evening, Bridget sits in her favorite chair, a cup of tea Helen brought over in her hands. The room feels different somehow, lighter, despite the difficult events of the day. People have asked me if I regret exposing Susan that day. They want to know if it was worth losing my relationship with my only child. She looks at a photo of young Susan on the side table, a picture from Susan's college graduation, both of them smiling, proud of what they'd accomplished together. The truth is, I didn't lose a relationship that day. I ended a lie. Susan had already abandoned me as a mother. She just hadn't told anyone else yet. What I exposed wasn't the loss of our relationship, but the fact that the relationship had already been lost. Her phone buzzes with a text message. It's from Helen. The Ladies' Auxiliary voted tonight. We're setting up a fund to help seniors in our congregation with unexpected expenses. We should have done this years ago. Thank you for opening our eyes. What I gained was something I'd forgotten I deserved. Respect. Self-respect, first and foremost. But also the respect of people who actually cared about my well-being, not just the appearance of their own goodness. The next morning, Bridget prepares breakfast in a kitchen that now has food in it, thanks to the immediate response from her church community. Some people think family loyalty means keeping quiet about family sins. But real love, the kind worth having, can survive the truth, The kind that can't was never real to begin with. She pulls out a notebook and begins writing. I'm writing letters now. To other seniors who might be protecting children who've abandoned them. To people who might be suffering in silence while others take credit for caring they're not providing. She looks up thoughtfully. If someone in your life is taking credit for caring they're not actually giving, know this. Your silence is their permission. Every time you protect their reputation, you enable their neglect. She closes the notebook with the wisdom of someone who's learned a difficult but essential lesson. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and for them, is to stop protecting their lies. Truth has a way of setting everyone free, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Bridget returns to her morning routine, but now she moves with a different energy, the energy of someone who's reclaimed her own story. My daughter may never forgive me for telling the truth, but I've forgiven myself for protecting her lies. And that, it turns out, was the freedom I really needed. Sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones we're trying hardest to protect. But protection built on lies isn't love. It's enabling. Real love can handle real truth.